Greater Media Broadcast News.
Welcome to another edition of Greater Media Broadcast News. I'm Suzy Shia, and here are some of the stories we're covering this week. Possible updates to the Fort Monmouth Redevelopment Plan. A youth forum that is bringing teens together. More home buyouts in Sayreville. The H2O9 Environmental Forum. And a networking opportunity in Middlesex County. The future use of Fort Monmouth may soon be back on the drawing board. Officials are expected to discuss the development of the former Army base. Though the 1,100-acre fort has 5 million square feet of commercial space, the demand has decreased in recent years, as demonstrated in Monmouth County, where 47% of office space is vacant. Instead, more housing units may be sought on the fort property. The current plan calls for 577 homes, including 116 affordable housing units. Meanwhile, a 10-acre portion of the property has been set aside for a housing community for homeless veterans. The Fort Monmouth Economic Revitalization Authority is expected to propose changes to the plans in the near future. And here's Mark Rosman with more headlines from this week's papers.
For the past several years, the Manalapan Englishtown Regional School District has been undergoing a digital conversion of its buildings. And this year, sixth graders in the Pinebrook School will be part of a pilot program where more technology will be placed into their hands. The superintendent of schools, in an article in this week's news transcript, has a lot of interesting things to say about the way he thinks teaching will evolve over the next few years with the advanced technology. I invite you to check out that story in the news transcript. In another article in Greater Media newspapers this week, one of our correspondents, Maureen Day, wrote a loving tribute about working with Sid Bernstein. Sid was known as the man who brought the Beatles to America, and Maureen had the pleasure of working with him for several years in the public relations field. Sid Bernstein died in August at the age of 95, and her tribute paints a great picture of a man who had a great impact on the music business, and I think you'll enjoy reading about it.
The rule of the Khmer Rouge in Cambodia led to one of the bloodiest genocides in history. Tom Castles talked to a local resident who is also one of the survivors.
Open up a history book. You don't have to flip through too many pages before you find out that humanity's willingness to subject our own species to atrocities is unlike anything seen elsewhere in the animal kingdom. If the history books don't convince you, though, just ask Chanty Jong. Now a New Jersey resident, Jong lived through dictator Pol Pot's communist overhaul of Cambodia in the 1970s that left more than 2 million dead and countless others starved and displaced. Jong was determined not to become part of that statistic. When the Khmer Rouge, a violent group of Pol Pot's henchmen, invaded her home city of Phnom Penh in 1975, she was separated from her family and sent to a forced labor camp when she was only 8 years old. In almost incomprehensible conditions and under the constant threat of outright murder, Jong toiled away for years as her sisters slowly died of starvation and her father was callously murdered right before her eyes. And that's not even the worst of Jong's tale, a nightmarish journey that, thankfully for Jong and anyone who hears it, is a story of perseverance and success. No one tells the story better than Jong, but for an in-depth recap of the events that led up to her eventual emigration to the United States, grab your local Greater Media newspaper.
What does New Jersey have in common with the Netherlands? Miles and miles of diverse coastland and attendance at the H2O9 Forum. Last week, representatives from both countries convened to discuss the challenges of living in a coastal region. Here's Nicole Antonucci.
Local municipalities impacted by Superstorm Sandy are taking advice from experts from the Netherlands on living with water and how to make the Jersey Shore more resilient against future storms. The two-day H2O9 Forum on September 9th and 10th addressed climate change and sea level rise in New York and New Jersey. The idea of living with water is familiar in Seabright, where Mayor Dina Long says residents time their life around the tide and keep a pair of waders nearby when there's a chance of rain. Experts from the Netherlands and the U.S. shared cutting-edge technologies, solutions, and approaches to protect coastal towns, ranging from sand nourishment techniques to types of housing that can be adaptive to changing weather patterns and sea level rise. To see more of the discussion, visit gmnews.com.
And here's a roundup of headlines from this week's papers. Middlesex County is having a party, and business owners and residents who want to network are invited. The county's Chamber of Commerce will host its annual largest networking party on September 30th in New Brunswick. Sponsored by Greater Media radio station WCTC and the Woodbridge Chamber of Commerce, those around the area are welcome to attend. Another 67 Sayreville homes that flooded during Superstorm Sandy will receive buyout offers, courtesy of a $14 million grant that was announced by Governor Chris Christie's office. There are now more than 200 homes in Sayreville that may be purchased and demolished through the state's Blue Acres program. While at least 50 of those homeowners have received their buyout offers, only 9 had accepted them by last week. With a massive rebuilding effort ahead after Sandy, Seabright may be consolidating with another municipality in the future. The Borough Council will study the pros and cons of joining with Monmouth Beach, Rumson, or Highlands. Council members say this move is an effort to consider long-term cost-saving measures. The NAACP in Long Branch held a forum last weekend to encourage understanding between young people in 3 Monmouth County towns. The event encouraged 50 teenagers from Long Branch, Asbury Park, and Neptune to reduce tensions surrounding hometown rivalries. Prefaced by a march, the event ended with a panel discussing bullying, racism, peer pressure, and more. For more details about any of these headlines, see your Greater Media newspaper today. Big changes could be coming to Sandy Hook, and as early as next summer. Here's Keith Hugh Miller with more details.
The National Park Service is recommending a new management plan for Sandy Hook that will provide new recreational opportunities for visitors and open the door for private businesses like bars, restaurants, and hotels. Last week, the Park Service held an open house at Fort Hancock, a National Historic District with more than 30 historic buildings in need of renovation. These buildings will be marketed to private companies and nonprofits beginning in October as the Park Service seeks partners to help preserve the buildings on a limited federal budget. The new plan would also provide new recreational activities at Sandy Hook, including new kayak water trails, camping programs, and possible ferry service to other national parks in New York. This week we spoke to a number of Park Service officials who explained the need for the changes and how residents can weigh in on them for themselves.
A Woodbridge detective is trying to break a case of poverty in Kenya. Here's Jessica D'Amico.
A Woodbridge detective is dedicated to helping those in need. After joining a childhood friend on a mission to Nzoia, Kenya, an area where AIDS runs rampant and children are forced to eat from garbage dumps or sniff glue to suppress their appetites, Guy Oliveri has made it his own mission, along with a group of volunteers, to assist the people there. The group, New Life Ministries, has purchased land on which the widows and orphans in Nzoia can grow food and is working to construct an orphanage there. So dedicated is Oliveri to the cause that he and his wife recently refinanced their home and sent the proceeds to Kenya. For more information or to donate, visit whykenya.org.
And here's Gloria Stravelli with an update on the local art scene.
If you've been to an exhibit at the Center for the Visual Arts Gallery at Brookdale Community College, you know how talented Brookdale art students are. Well, now you have a chance to see the creative output of their mentors and teachers in the fall faculty exhibition on view at the CVA Gallery through October 11th. 50 works are included in the exhibit in a wide range of media, including animation, photography, paintings, prints, sculpture, ceramics, jewelry, and more. And what a feast! You'll see 48 nature scenes by Claire Smoog ahead of the digital animation program lining a gallery wall, landscape abstracts by Wes Sherman, drawing instructor, and Bassem Hassam explores political themes in his painting, photography, and mixed media sculpture. These and more at the CVA Gallery on the Lincroft campus through October 11th. Parking is most convenient in lots 1 and 2. You can see this exhibit in newspapers and on this website. Send us news about arts events in your community, and remember to support the arts. They add zest to your life.
Here's Tim Morris with this week's sports segment.
For high school football fans who were eagerly awaiting the start of the 2013 season, the wait is over. The 2013 Scholastic campaign officially kicked off last week with a full schedule of games. Freehold High School in Gold and White opened at Lakewood on September the 12th and showed some early flash as running back Josh Dixon picked up a huge gain here. And quarterback Brad Jones followed it up by turning the corner on this run to get important yards. Jones finished the opening drive off by tossing a touchdown pass to receiver Tyrod Smith-Rush in the corner of the end zone that gave Freehold an early 6-0 lead. Wide receiver Donald Allen, number 3, got into the act with this end run for the Colonials. Lakewood, which relied on the power running of Chappelle Cook, number 4, came back to win the game in overtime, 12-6.
For more in-depth coverage and additional stories, see your Greater Media newspaper today. This is Susie Shia. Thanks for tuning in.